There is a golden rule in aviation. If the plane is flying, the pilot is in charge. On October 29th, 2018, that rule just stopped working. We are inside the cockpit of Lion Air Flight 610. It is a perfect morning. The plane is brand new. The engines are running flawlessly. But look at the captain's hands. He is pulling back on the yoke with everything he has. He is trying to climb, but the control column is fighting him. It feels heavy. It feels wrong. The first officer is frantically flipping through the handbook, looking for a solution. He is shouting altitude readings, 5,000 feet, 4,000. But here is the thing. They aren't fighting a storm. They aren't fighting an engine failure. They are fighting a secret. Something has taken control of the horizontal stabilizer on the tail. Every time the pilots pull up, something pushes the nose down. They don't know what it is. It is not in the manual. It is not in their training. For 9 minutes, they wrestle with a machine that seems determined to die. And then, silence. This isn't just a crash. It is a crime scene. How did a 100-year-old engineering giant build a plane that was programmed to kill its own pilots? And why did they hide the instructions on how to stop it? Come find out with the Empire Archives. You don't look at the cockpit to find the cause of this crash. You have to look at the motive. And the motive starts in a boardroom in 2011. Boeing was facing an existential crisis. For 40 years, they were the kings of the sky. They owned the domestic market. But then, the phone rang. It was American Airlines, and they dropped a bomb. They told Boeing they were about to place the largest aircraft order in history. But they weren't buying Boeing. They were defecting to Airbus. See, Airbus had this new plane, the A320neo. It was fuel efficient, it was quiet, and it was cheap to run. Boeing, they had nothing. They were caught napping. Panic set in. Total panic. The executives ran the numbers. Designing a new plane from scratch takes 10 years. They needed a solution in 48 hours. So, they chose the Frankenstein option. They took the old 737 airframe, a design from the 1960s, and decided to bolt massive modern engines onto it. They called it the 737 MAX. It was a rush job, and it created a serious physics problem. These new engines, they were huge. They didn't fit under the wing, so the engineers had to get creative. They mounted them higher up and shoved them further forward, but that changed the balance. When the MAX climbed, those heavy engines acted like a lever, naturally pitching the nose up. If the nose went too high, the plane would stall and fall out of the sky. So, the plane was inherently unstable. Now, in the past, Boeing would have redesigned the wing. But that costs time, and the executives wanted the plane now. So, they decided to fix a hardware problem with a line of code. But before we talk about the software, we have to talk about the legal trick they used to get away with this. Here is the thing about the legality. The 737 MAX is a lie. Boeing needed to convince the FAA that this modern digital jet was exactly the same plane as the original 737 from 1967. It is a loophole called grandfather rights. Think about it like this. Imagine taking a 1967 Ford Mustang. You swap the engine for a Tesla battery, change the chassis, change the computer, and then you tell the DMV, it is the same car. I don't need new seatbelts. That is essentially what Boeing did. By claiming it was the same plane, They were allowed to bypass modern safety regulations. If the MAX was classified as a new plane, the law would require modern cockpit alerts and multiple backup sensors for every system. But under the grandfather rules, they could use the old standards. They used a 50-year-old permit to fly a 21st century danger. And because they bypassed those checks, they were able to hide the single greatest flaw in the system. Now, let's follow the money, because this is where the greed gets specific. Boeing needed to sell this plane as just another 737. They promised airlines like Southwest that their pilots wouldn't need any new simulator training. Just hop in and fly. They were so confident that they put a clause in the contract. Listen to this. If the FAA required simulator training for the MAX, Boeing would pay Southwest a penalty of $1 million per plane. $1 million per plane. With hundreds of planes on order, that was a potential loss of hundreds of millions of dollars. But there was a problem. That software they invented to fix the pitch issue, MCAS, it was technically a new system. And by law, a new system requires new training. So Boeing made a choice. They decided to hide it. They treated MCAS as a background function. They reasoned that if the pilots didn't know about it, they wouldn't need to be trained on it. They literally scrubbed mentions of MCAS from the manual. They handed pilots the keys to a plane that had a secret override mode, and they removed the page that explained how it worked. And the worst part? The software was flawed. It relied on a single sensor. 1. If a balloon, or a bird, or a glitch hit that one sensor, MCAS would think the plane was stalling, and it would aggressively dive the plane to save it. They gave a computer full authority over the flight controls, based on a coin flip. But here is the part that really keeps me up at night. The Lion Air crash. It shouldn't have happened. The plane actually tried to warn them the night before. Let's go back 12 hours. October 28th. The exact same plane is flying the Bali to Jakarta route. And guess what? It has the exact same problem. The sensors fail. The stick shaker goes crazy. The nose slams down. The pilots are fighting for their lives. They are diving toward the water. But that night, there was a miracle in the cockpit. Literally, a stroke of luck. There was a third pilot hitching a ride in the jump seat. And because he wasn't wrestling with the wheel, he could actually think. He watches the chaos for a second, leans forward, and yells, "Cut the switches, kill the motor." And it worked. They landed safely. Now you are probably thinking, okay, so they fixed it, right? They told someone? No. And that is the tragedy. That crew didn't report the MCAS failure because they didn't know MCAS existed. They just wrote a vague note in the logbook, STS running backwards. The maintenance crew on the ground checked it, shrugged, and cleared the log. The next morning, Captain Sunil Bhavier walked onto that plane, completely unaware that it had almost killed the previous crew 12 hours earlier. The solution was right there. It just wasn't shared. This brings us back to the final flight. The single sensor failed again. It told the computer the nose was 20 degrees too high. It was a lie. The plane was flying level. But MCAS believed the lie. Suddenly, the nose lurched down. The captain fought back. He used the thumb switch on his yoke to pull the nose up. For a moment, it worked. The plane leveled off. But MCAS is persistent. 5 seconds later, it woke up again. Push. The captain corrected again. push. This happened 21 times. 21 times. Just imagine the psychological terror. The controls are heavy. The stick shaker is vibrating your hands off the wheel, and the machine is actively fighting you. The pilots didn't know they could reach over and flip those two cutout switches. Why would they? They didn't know the system existed. After 11 minutes of fighting, the system won. And Boeing's response? It was cold. They blamed the foreign pilots. They issued a bulletin saying, "If this happens, just turn off the motor." They insisted the plane was safe. They kept selling tickets. 5 months later, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302. Same plane, same software, same sensor failure. But this time, the pilots did exactly what Boeing said to do. When the nose dropped, they recognized it. They flipped the cutout switches. They killed the electric motor. But Boeing had missed something crucial in their emergency instructions: physics. The plane was diving at 500 miles per hour. The air pressure on the tail was immense. With the electric motor off, the pilots had to manually turn a physical wheel near their knees to pull the nose up. This wheel moves the jack screw, a massive threaded rod in the tail. But at that speed, the aerodynamic forces locked the screw in place. Imagine trying to open a car door while driving at 70 miles an hour. It is hard, right? Now try doing it at 500 miles an hour. The pilots were physically pulling on a wheel that would not move. They were locked out. Desperate, they turned the electric motor back on to get some power assist. It was a fatal mistake. The moment the power returned, MCAS woke up. It slammed the nose down for the final time. The impact created a crater 10 meters deep. While the world focused on the software, a deeper investigation revealed the rot was also physical. Ed Pearson, a senior manager at the 737 factory, finally broke his silence. He revealed that the factory floor was a scene of total chaos. Boeing was so desperate to clear the backlog that the slogan became, "Schedule is king." Pearson saw mechanics working 60-hour weeks for months on end. They were exhausted. They were making mistakes. He found debris left inside fuel tanks. He saw wires installed incorrectly. He walked into the general manager's office and said, "We have to shut down the line. It isn't safe. Someone is going to get hurt." The response? Get back to work. The executives were so obsessed with beating Airbus that they turned the factory into a sweatshop. When Pearson retired, he refused to fly on the plane he helped build. That tells you everything. Eventually, the internal emails came out, and they confirmed everything. One employee wrote, "This airplane is designed by clowns who in turn are supervised by monkeys." Another mocked the regulators. "I just Jedi mind-tricked this regulator into accepting the training." This wasn't an engineering failure. It was a cultural rot. They prioritized that Southwest contract clause, that $1 million penalty, over the safety of the passengers. They exploited a 50-year-old loophole to avoid safety checks. They gambled that the single sensor wouldn't fail. And they lost. Boeing paid $2.5 billion in fines, but the cost was 346 lives. The 737 MAX is flying again today. The software has been patched. It uses 2 sensors now, but the legacy of the MAX isn't the technology. It is the warning. It stands as proof that when you hide critical data to save money, the truth will eventually come out, and usually it comes out in the black box. I am James Tudor, and this is the Empire Archives. Please subscribe for more stories like this.